survival than ever.
Is REPO a good game? In short, yes. REPO is a good game, and it's worth every penny.
Yeah, well, like,
In long, however, I'd like to talk about how it compares to Lethal Company. Coming from Lethal Company, you will see similarities between the two games immediately. Unlike other games similar to Lethal Company like Content Warning, REPO doesn't flip the formula on its head, but instead it reimagines it with a few entirely new mechanics that don't feel like they could just be put into Lethal Company.
Can you not take damage right here?
The first thing is that REPO, of course, uses a physics engine that is not only very funny, but also very functional.
Wait, hold on.
Fuck!
Bugs relating to the physics engine are far and few between, which is impressive. Secondly is the stealth system. Hiding in REPO is very interesting and fun. There are many approaches to running into cover, and the game even encourages more interesting hiding spots, since some monsters can attack you while you're in the generic hiding spots like under tables or beds. Meanwhile, hiding in a chest or even in a toilet, enemies won't be able to hit you as easily or even at all. Lastly, they removed the timer. Basically every Lethal Company-esque game has a timer in it, so removing it is an interesting decision that leads to more methodical gameplay. It also makes the game more casual and inviting for new players. Not to say I don't like having a timer, since it adds a lot of stress and makes having a plan much more impactful, but I won't lie, not having to worry about the time or my oxygen is a relief.
I hate this crap. Alright, good strategy. What? What? No, why?
The only complaint I have about the stealth system is just that it's not very intuitive. On the surface it might seem to be intuitive, but the fact that pressing the crouch button just makes it so some creatures can't see you even when it really looks like they should, just leads to some confusing moments. Of course, this game is still early access, so this could be changed, and I do think it should, since the more interesting hiding spots often go unused, and this would help to encourage them even more. Next, I want to talk about cooperation.
Help me.
REPO is the absolute best and most interesting when it comes to cooperation. In Content Warning, there are a few cooperative aspects, such as taking videos with your friends in them to get more views, and you can have someone carry the boom mic, but these things aren't encouraged enough. They don't give enough value to actually consider doing. Lethal Company has similar issues when it comes to team cooperation, but even worse, since the only direct team cooperation you do comes in the form of just fighting with your friends or making a plan, which might be a hot take, but whatever. The point is that REPO has better team cooperation than both of these games. In REPO, having teammates is often the difference between making $20,000 and $100,000. Items like the piano, harp, this weird green cube, and even the enemies themselves require multiple people to carry, otherwise it will lose a massive amount of value or shoot you in the face. Having items like this where teamwork is necessary without it feeling forced onto you is a great idea. I will touch on teamwork more as we move on since it affects every aspect of the game, but for now, let's move on to the monsters. The monsters are the real meat of any horror game, so regardless of how good the rest of the game is, if the monsters suck, then it's not going to be very fun. I'm somewhat happy to announce that the monsters in REPO are good, but not complex. This was likely intentional to appeal to more players, but it means that the monsters lack depth and unique interactions. Not to say the game is devoid of unique enemy interactions, I love the clown for instance due to this exact reason, but the majority of the monsters lack depth. This is what I consider Lethal Company to have over REPO. In Lethal Company, I can make an entire video on the Nutcracker, where a large portion of that video is me showing how it combines with other monsters in an interesting way. For instance, the Nutcracker will likely shoot the slime if they both end up in the same room together, and this will cause the slime to move much quicker. If I made a video on a REPO enemy, there would still be lots to talk about, but nothing super specific. It would basically always be that you could use the clown's laser to kill other monsters, but doing things like that are pretty niche and difficult to do. Now I'd like to get into some of the depth that a few of the monsters have, starting with the clown. The clown has a kick attack that deals minimal damage, but it sends you flying, and the impact of you hitting the wall is what deals the majority of the damage. These physics shenanigans are what lead to a lot of the depth, and learning how it works is exactly how you get better at this game. The clown also has a laser attack that is very fun to play around. It will target your head, so if you're standing and then you crouch when it fires, you'll be able to go right under it. Another great enemy is the robe. The robe moves very slowly and can't see well, but if it spots you and you look at it, it will become enraged and will be able to catch up with you, and if it hits you, it instantly kills you. If you don't look at it, however, then the robe will move at a snail's pace, allowing you to get away. The robe will also attack you underneath an object if it sees you go under it. Something I love about Lethal Company is that the game becomes more exciting and difficult when more monsters are all together, since then you have to play to all their weaknesses. REPO, however, has a very annoying issue, and that's just that all the monsters don't become more interesting when paired together. Instead, they sometimes become very annoying or just impossible to deal with. I'd like to preface this hot take by saying that Lethal Company isn't completely innocent in this regard, but it's much less prevalent. The issue in REPO is due to the existence of what I like to call support monsters. To define a support monster, they are a monster that suck on their own but become more difficult to defeat when in combination with other monsters. On paper, the concept of a supportive monster is cool, but the way they went about integrating them in is just annoying and unintuitive most of the time. Here's an example of a good support monster first, just so that we have a benchmark. The duck. The duck is very cool since on its own it does basically nothing. As long as you're careful, the duck won't enrage and instead just be a minor nuisance. Once a bowtie spots you, however, and that bowtie flings the duck will enrage and attack you even though it wasn't your fault. This can seem dumb, but you can avoid the duck even in its enraged state, and by using items like the sledgehammer, you'll be able to one-shot the duck for a minor energy cost. This enemy has a lot of counterplay that doesn't require too much effort and risk for too little reward. Now I will go over two examples of bad support monsters. Number one being the Screamer. The Screamer on its own is extremely annoying, but not a big issue unless you're playing at later levels. It simply runs up to you, launches you for minimal damage, and then either leaves or hits you again. It supports the other monsters by stun locking you, an infamously uninteresting and annoying mechanic. The reason an enemy like the bowtie isn't annoying even though it stun locks you, is because you get a lot of time to run away. You can't just run from the Screamer. Instead, the counterplay is to hide under a table, since the Screamer is incredibly hard to kill, with a melee weapon or bomb due to their ability to just scream at you if you approach them, and they're so fast they will run from your bomb before it blows up. The best way to kill them is to shoot them with a gun, but the guns are wildly inaccurate, so this may work, but it's quite hard to pull off. The second example of a bad support monster is the Hidden. The Hidden is an invisible man who grabs you and brings you to another monster or just really far away. This is actually a really cool concept since separating people is a great way to make them scared. However, for the person being grabbed, there is no counterplay. Instead, you have to hope your teammate grabs you away from him, which isn't easy since the Hidden is, well, invisible and very quick. Also, the fact that he can bring you straight to another monster and you are stun locked after being dropped for a couple seconds means that sometimes you will guaranteed die. Also, the Hidden is extremely hard to kill for obvious reasons, and it is also possible that if multiple of them spawn, you'll be put into an infinite loop of being grabbed. Yes, this happened to me, and yes, I'm still bitter about it. To be fair, that has only happened once, but the further you get into the game, the more likely it will happen due to there being more monsters. The last criticism I have for this game is how monster spawning works as a whole. Unlike in Lethal Company, where the monsters physically run around the map until they stumble into you, in REPO, it's a bit different, but for a good reason. The maps in REPO, at least early game, don't loop back into themselves, so if the monsters were always running around, they could end up permanently closing off parts of the map. This would especially be prevalent when it comes to the Trudge, since he's so slow. Now, I'm not entirely sure what all the specifics for monster routing is, but I do know this. Monsters get despawned and respawned in other places in order to prevent monsters from blocking areas off. This sounds like a creative solution, but it creates a lot of confusion when you see a monster practically round a corner and then suddenly they're gone. It's also possible to see a monster despawn right before your eyes, although I haven't gotten footage of this myself. This would be a minor nitpick, but it becomes much worse once the final extraction is completed and you have to retreat back to your truck. The game sends signals to all the monsters in the map to head to the truck. This is supposed to create a cool escape sequence, but it often isn't very cool due to monsters like the Screamer. Also, every monster respawns instantly even if you kill them. The whole sequence is more often than not the end of my runs. As discussed earlier, this game doesn't have very good monster combos, and this only amplifies the issue. Also, if you just wait, eventually the signals will stop sending monsters to the truck and instead send them straight to you, and the signals will slow down the longer you're in the level. This feels very contrary to the game's design, as in solo runs or sometimes even with other people, I will just wait like 5 minutes because then the monsters become less aggro, making it easier to get back to the truck. Alright, enough about the cons, however. Let's talk about more of the pros, the first of which partially solves all of the issues I just talked about. Death isn't very impactful. If you die, you're not out for the rest of the game. Instead, you can be revived if your head is extracted. Also, you can have and should have 6 players, so even if some bullcrap happens, you likely won't be out for very long. Now I'd like to talk a bit more about the cooperation, because it's staggering how much fun the team tactics are in this game. You, of course, have to work together to lift certain things, as previously mentioned, but you're also much more effective fighting a monster together, and a lot of those supportive monsters mentioned earlier are made a lot more bearable with even one more guy by your side, since all of the supportive monsters can only target one person at a time. Except for bangers, but I don't really consider them a supportive monster. Also, since death doesn't matter nearly as much, you are encouraged to make crazy and more aggressive plays, which is really fun. So if a lot of the issues with the game are made a lot better with the group, then why was I so critical? Well, the reason why is because I play this game solo a lot, and the game should account for a lower number of players. I shouldn't have to rely on the health pack and infinite ammo glitches to get far in REPO, especially since the devs are removing those bugs in the next update. This game is great, and I'd hope the devs want it to be really fun for everyone. So I hope the things I've mentioned throughout this video are made better eventually, but you know, this game is in early access. I'm being critical here because this is probably the kind of feedback they want to hear. The game is amazing, as I said at the start of this video. And that's it. Thanks for watching the video, and if you managed to get through all the hot takes I have in this video, give me a like come on, and a sub too. And I want to hear all your hot takes in the comments as well. Even if you go down there just to call me a doofus, I'll still read it and consider it, and probably drop a heart too.
Dude, just gonna throw me at them. There he is. There he is. Here you go, sir.
I got something for you.
Why does he not want you? Take him.
When I was
Take
12
him.
at
He's
summer
a
camp,
Sacrifice now! Take him!
I found a dead body in the lake and I left it there and didn't tell
Bro,
anybody
he's passive now.
because I was scared.